Welcome back, everybody, on a Friday morning edition of Hot Mic. Corey Provis, voice of the Minnesota Twins, will join us in about 10 minutes' time. Really excited about another year with Corey, and those appearances will be sponsored by Welton's Tire Service. We appreciate their sponsorship on Hot Mic once again this season, and looking forward to another baseball season with them joining us each and every Friday. One basketball note, John Rothstein from CBS Sports, the ultimate college basketball insider, tweeted this out earlier before we hit the air. I didn't see this, but sounds like Oral Roberts has its next men's basketball coach. Corey Barnett will be hired. He was on staff in West Virginia last year. So you remember both of the ORU jobs are open, with Kelsey Music taking the Arkansas job. So the women's side is still open, but the men's side now hired there with Corey Barnett. He replaces Russell Springman, who was let go after a couple years as the head coach. And boy, the Golden Eagles have really struggled. They have been at the bottom of the Summit League the last 2 years. So he's the man tasked with trying to get them back to the top. And as of right now, Drake still doesn't have a head coach. I was told Eric Henderson, South Dakota State coach, was interviewing on Wednesday night. Things were trending that Hendo to get the job, but nothing has been concrete on that yet. Drake's AD has played it pretty close to the vest, so we'll wait and see. But potentially in the Summit on the men's side, Oral Roberts will have a new coach. Denver's going to have a new coach. Potentially South Dakota State could have a new coach as well. So there's only 9 teams in the league, so that'd be a third of them could be different in 2026. Something to keep an eye on over the weekend. Mentioned yesterday, we had a great show up at NDSU Pro Day, and afterwards, when the throwing got done for Cam Miller, we had a chance to sit down with his quarterback coach out of New Jersey, Tony Racioppi. We had Tony on the show, I want to say in January, right after the national championship game, because Cam was out there working what they were working on. Basically, what they were working on was for yesterday, to knock it out of the park. And with the amount of scouts that were there were 28 NFL teams in the building. There were a handful of quarterback coaches that were there, including the Denver Broncos, who visited exclusively with Cam after things wrapped up. We sat down with Tony to get his thoughts on the day and what's ahead over the next month.
So first, give me the lowdown on how long it's taken to craft the program that you wanted to do here at Pro Day.
The hardest thing with writing scripts is you got to figure out who's going to run the routes for the guys. Yeah. And then you factor in, okay, do we have 5 receivers? Do we have 3 receivers? Do we have 2 tight ends? So you're just trying to move the route tree around depending on the players, 1, and 2, the volume. Sometimes I'll get quarterbacks to ask me for a script, and I'm like, well, who's running? They're like, I got a tight end and a running back. I'm like, well, we're not throwing many balls then, So that was great. You want to be, all the years I've done this, you want to be between 45 and 55 throws, and he had 49, and he hit 49, which I'm not surprised by.
When you look at how the progression from when you first got to work with him 4 years ago to what you saw here, what's the biggest development in your mind? Where is the biggest development?
He just improved every time. He's a kid that and again, they do such a great job here at developing quarterbacks, and obviously had some great ones over the years. And I think for him it was soak up all the coaching you get here, and then you're out with me, you soak up what I got, and if you tell him to do something, he will do it. And a lot of times in this this position, there's a lot of lonely work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of off season, there's a lot of January, February, March, and you're by yourself, and that's the time to really rep the fundamental piece of this whole position, and you got to do it on your own.
Right.
And he's a kid that if you told him to do it, he would do it, and he did it.
Cam has taken some things, I know personally. You got to work with him after the Shrine game. How much did he take personally not getting a combine invite?
Yeah, he was disappointed. I think that, and it's funny, obviously talking to some scouts and some quarterback coaches that were here today, they were blown away that he wasn't, because he probably would have been one of the best ones there, which was the comment multiple times today, which is great to hear. But yeah, I think his secret sauce has always been he's such a competitor, and anytime you kind of knock him, it just fuels him to work harder and prove people wrong. And he's done that obviously as a player here through his career, between starting early on and turn himself into being a national champion and a legacy player here.
What have you seen since Frisco? What was the biggest thing you guys were working on? Was there one thing or a couple of things between now to get ready for the pre-draft process?
Not too much, just because I've had him for so long. Sometimes you get a guy that you've had for 4 or 5 years. Sometimes some guys I've worked with for the first time in January. So like a lot of times with those guys, you're trying to figure out, okay, like this is what they do well, this is not what they do well, and this is what we kind of have to fix and clean up here. For him, it just, really, if you think about, they won the national championship and he was with me like 2 days later.
I know.
So like
right.
for it was kind of the opposite with him. You're just you're trying to like polish things, but also keep the rep count down. That way we're fresh through this whole process, and. I always break it down to games. So, like, the first game would be East-West Shrine or, like, a Senior Bowl.
Yep.
Second game would be the Combine, and then Pro Day's the third game, right? So, for him, it was like get him ready for game one, which was East-West, and he did a great job there. A lot of people thought he was the best quarterback there.
Pretty
Heard that
good,
from multiple people,
Yep.
Which, again, not surprised by. And then, obviously, we were in a Combine invite, which kind of frustrating, but at the same time, it was kind of good for us because we can kind of deload him and then just, get him fresh and then build back up to, obviously, today.
So, now this is in the rearview mirror. What's ahead for the next month in terms of how much work will you have with him over the next 30 days?
I think he's going to go home and spend some time with family, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
He needs to do that, and kind of because again, I always tell the rookies like this is going to be the longest year of your life because you go college season, draft process, and then all of a sudden
it's rookie camp and then
it's
right?
It's rookie mini, it's mini camp, it's OTAs, and all of a sudden it's June, July, and it's training camp, and then that whole this is like the longest year of your life. So if you can take some downtime, take some downtime. But I'll see him sometime probably in April.
Take your QB coach hat off. Is he a draft pick in your mind?
100%, yes. I think his sweet spot's probably that 5th, 6th round player. A lot of times you see the 5th round guys, there's no like elite physical traits, but they're just really good quarterbacks, and that's what he is. He's not 6'4", and he's not going to throw the ball 85 yards in the air, which again doesn't matter, but people think it matters. He's just a really good quarterback, and he's going to play a long time because of that.
Tony, the fact that he's had a couple of visits already, that he has a couple more lined up, that there were 5 QB coaches, I think, in the NFL here today.
Yes.
Is that indicative of, the train is rolling to being drafted?
Correct. It's a combination of, I think, words out how good he is, one, and two, I think what happens is they go to other people's days and they don't look like he did today, and I think, just because their helmet may be at a bigger program or whatever it is, maybe it's going to take a little bit longer. But at the end of the day, it's all about timing this thing up where it's, April, whatever the draft is, where he's super high on people's boards, and hopefully they come take him.
What was the biggest thing to say, okay, I want to work with this kid? It's one thing that he wants to work with you.
Yeah.
What was the selling point for you to say, there's something I can mold here?
Well, he was so coachable. And again, awesome parents, dad's a Hall of Fame coach. It was a pleasure, luckily for me, I haven't had many kids that I'm like, I got to go here today. I've had some really good dudes over the years, thank God, as people. But I mean, he just, for me, it was like great player, great kid, high character, wants to be great. And then, like I told you, for me, it was like, okay, when you leave here, you need to do X, Y, Z. And next time I saw him, he was better, and it's sometimes guys, they leave you and you're confident that they improved. And the next time you see them, they're not as good. They haven't worked on things. Sometimes they regress. For me, it was every time you saw them, you saw the improvements over the years. And obviously, where we're at today.
On the flip side, in your mind, what's the thing he needs to work on? Say, okay, this is something between now and whenever. We still need to get a good hold on this.
I think you're just always trying to perfect, footwork and throwing sequence and accuracy. I mean, again, 49 today. We were aggressive. There were multiple comebacks.
Right, there weren't any dump offs.
No. A lot of deep balls down the field. Try to show arm strength outside the numbers, and obviously the deep ball down the sidelines and hit them all. So it just. It's just preparing yourself to be a pro. That's all.
The fact that he got to throw to Bryce Lance again, how much do they think a comfort factor to Joe Stuffle, to Chris Harris, guys that he's used to? How much is that? Because 5-6 years ago, as you know, current teammates weren't allowed to do this. How much does that add to the comfortability of having a good day like this?
Yes, huge. Like usually what we do is I try to send guys back so they can throw with their guys 2 to 3 times. And just get some timing down again. And again, obviously they've thrown so many balls together that it didn't take long. But yeah, so like he came back here and obviously ran through that script for the most part 2 or 3 times with them just to make sure everybody's good and everybody knows where they're going and everybody's good with their routes and the depths and the angles and that kind of stuff. And yeah, they're a fun group. You can see why they win titles here because of the kind of character kids that they have here.
Last thing for you, if a a team or is talking to him afterwards, is that do we infer into that more? That's a good sign. They want to get a little bit more.
That's a great sign. I was next to him. Multiple teams were like, you weren't supposed to be that good today, because you were kind of our secret here, and word's going to get out, kind of thing. So, but at the end of the day, that's what we need, right? We need multiple people to think he is who he is, and that's how you get picked. It's. If people have a 6th-round pick and they want to take him and someone else likes him, they have a 5th-round pick, then move up, So let's create as much value as we possibly can and people's eyes, and then hopefully here's his name called, and he should.
And by the way he had yesterday, it certainly sounds like that's going to happen. We'll break. More on that coming up later on the show. Corey Provis is waiting in the wings, though, as we talk some Twins baseball after the opener yesterday and outlook for 2025. That's coming up when Hot Mike returns right after this.